Good afternoon and happy Friday, everybody. This is Rob Romanowski with 3HTI, joined today by Andrew Leedy, Applications Engineer at PTC. And basically what we're going to do today is take you through a brief presentation of what's new in Creo 4.0. So glad to have everyone on today. Everyone's going to be on mute during the presentation. And if you have any questions, type those into the dashboard and we will answer them as we go along. So one of the things I want to do is actually ask our audience a little bit of a couple of questions here for a poll. Want to figure out what type of CAD system that you're using right now. This will help us to tailor the presentation to you, the audience. So just want to see if you're currently using Creo 2.0 or 3.0. If you're using an earlier version called Wildfire, or an earlier version of Pro Engineer, something earlier than Wildfire 4, or if you're using another CAD system. So if you guys could type that in, that would be great. And we could see that the majority of people are actually using Creo 2.0 and 3.0. Excellent. So the next question I have is in relation to the first question. Here we go. I would like to learn to use the following features within Creo 2.0 or 3.0. Freestyle, flexible modeling, Unite technology, design exploration extension, or mannequin. I think what's interesting is 3HTI, we just had a team sales meeting over the past couple of days where we had all of our everybody who works for the company, technical staff, administrative staff, sales staff, everybody, we got together for a couple of days, and Andrew and I were just talking about a team building event we did in this escape room, which was a lot of fun. But the thing is that when you're working on a daily basis, a lot of times you get your head down and you just go. You don't really get a chance to pick up your head and get some time to think. And I think this meeting event that we just had gave us a lot of time to think. And one of the things that we realized was that there's some capabilities within Creo 3, Creo 2 that people don't know how to use. And it doesn't really make sense to take a training class on it. You can go into, if you have an e-learning subscription, you can go in and learn it on your own, but most of the time you're going to put that off because there's other important quote unquote things to do. So one of the things we're going to be coming up with in October is we're going to start doing a weekly free training sessions where we're going to show you how to use flexible modeling and how to use Unite technology and these other capabilities within Creo 4.0 and other things. More detailed modeling things like creating rounds and other good stuff, setting up your file for machining, because we want our customers, we want you to be able to optimize the usage of Creo. So hopefully that will be of good use to everybody. So thank you for participating in the poll. And just real quick about us, and most of our customers are on the line, but basically we're a systems integrator. With a focus on helping discrete manufacturing companies in all phases of product development, from design through manufacturing, which includes analysis and end of life cycle. And we want to help you and our partners operate more efficiently and effectively. And hopefully that helps improve profits, that makes your job easier, and that helps you to live a better life and maybe enjoy work a little bit more. If you got to spend a lot of time working, you might as well enjoy it, right? So the software and 3D printing solutions that we provide help with the digital transformation, basically taking concepts and ideas and transforming them into a digital file that can be used for either augmented reality, for 3D printing and additive manufacturing, files that can be used for analysis, and any other way that the part or assembly can be shared with others, either inside or outside of your enterprise. So that's just a quick overview, and now what I'm going to do is turn everything over to Andrew, and Andrew Leedy from PTC is going to give you an overview of what is new in Creo 4.0. And Andrew, take it away. You have the con.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Just let me know when you can see my screen there, please.
I see your screen.
Okay, perfect. So as he had said, my name is Andrew Leedy. I'm an application engineer here with PTC. I work with the Virtual Center of Excellence doing overview qualify level demonstrations of Creo software. And today we're just going to be taking a very quick look at Creo 4. We have a lot of content. I'm going to try to get through as much as I can to show you some of the new exciting things that we have. I'd ask if we have any questions, save them to the end. If we have time, we can handle that. If we don't have time, I can take them offline for you. Otherwise, let's just get started.
How long do you think you need, Andrew?
I could do it 30 minutes. I think that's what it was scheduled out for, right?
30 minutes sounds good.
So that's fine. So let's just get started. I know Rob had said a lot of people are in Creo 2 and Creo 3, so things might look a little familiar. If you're from Wildfire, obviously it's going to look a little different, but regardless, we have our model tree on the left with Creo 4. Up in the top, we have that ribbon, get access to all the different features, analysis, annotation tools that we're going to need. And we just get started right on the model. So we're going to be working for this particular part of the demonstration on this piece right here, this base plate. We want to build a connection up to my robot here. We're going to highlight some of the user interface improvements and some of the other improvements with Creo as we do that. So first thing I want to talk about, anytime I left click on anything, whether it's going to be a surface, a plane, a part, an assembly, I get access to this mini toolbar, and that's going to give me access to a lot of different customized commands that I can choose from. So from just a left click, can activate, I can start to work on this piece. We'll go to my datum planes. Again, left click on one of my datum planes, sends me right into the ability to either sketch, extrude, revolve, offset another plane off of this, whatever I'm trying to do there. So we can start to get into extrude, build out a part. Now snap into my sketch review, brings us right to that plane. I can actually clip my model down with Creo 4 to be able to see exactly what plane I'm gonna be working with and gain the references that I need to be working with together. Now in terms of those references, so right click brings up my sketching toolbar. This is another fully customizable menu. So a lot of different customization options throughout the years of Creo, being able to just get whatever you need to, all the different tools right within reach for you. So for instance, if I just want a center circle, I do that a lot. Just get right to that with my mouse button. Otherwise, I can just go up and find it in my ribbon, obviously. With Creo 4, we have the ability to add in references basically on the fly. So anytime I highlight over some existing geometry, whether that's a sketch line or in this case, part of my assembly, I actually snap straight to that and I start to get some references where the endpoints of those lines are, the center points. So if I highlight over the circle, without having to create an external reference beforehand, I can just start to build out, two circles very quickly, middle bow spun it off to get off of that, right click into another tool, sketching tool. So really just trying to improve how fast we can build out some of these sketches. So things that we're doing all the time, we're just building out lines, we're building circles. Let's just do that a lot quicker. Just to finish out this sketch, put some dimensions onto this, we can start to talk about something a little different. So right click brings me to my exit, either accept or get out of that, and we can start to get into my extrude feature. So we can actually have that sketch locked behind that extrude, so no need to clutter up my model tree with unnecessary. I don't have a sketch and then I build an extrude off that. We just do the extrude with the sketch embedded into it. So just as with other versions of Creo, we have a lot of different ways on how we can handle this extrude. So I can just freely drag this. I can do a symmetrical. I can do it through all. If I actually shift left click up to a surface, that actually does an up to next. So that's something that a lot of people don't know exists, is that you don't have to make a hotkey for that. That's just part of Creo. So it's actually gonna be driven to this surface now if there's ever gonna be a design change in the future. If I right click, we can actually get to a bunch of different ways to modify this extrude, or I could always go to my options to handle that as well. But regardless, we can actually do a side 2 on this now. So new within Creo 4 is the ability to do a side 2 that doesn't necessarily need to be symmetrical with the other extrude part. And I can actually do a cut into this extrude at the same time. So something that would normally take me at least 2 features to do, both with their individual sketches, now I can do within 1 feature. So just to finish this out, right click, bring up my mirror this across my datum plane, and we have a nice looking part that I can work with now. Now, if I don't want to work with this in the context of the entire assembly, that's okay. So left click toolbar, again, just bring up that piece on the part level, and we could start to work with this piece just on its own. So again, with my datum planes, just to highlight another improvement that we made, if I select on any 2 planes or any 2 surfaces that are going to be parallel with each other, I can actually have a new way to add in planes. So the new mid plane option. So this allows my new plane to be directly smack dab in the middle between those two parallel surfaces. So if there's ever, again, any design change in the future, this will all adjust accordingly. Anything I build off this sketch will also adjust. So going through, left click, we want to do another extrude, go straight to my sketching view, maybe turn off my datum plane so this is a little more clear, and start to build out this part a little bit more. So in terms of the sketching tool in the right click toolbar, there might be something here that we use all the time that is not currently on this area, but we want it to be. We just use it, you know, we're using this in our sketch every single day. I can actually customize this menu completely. So we have a fully customized way to go through and access these different kind of menus. I can turn off different panels or turn them back on. And it's actually going to gray out things that don't really apply to my, you know, the sketching interface that I'm going in right now. So if I want to search for, you know, center rectangle, I want this to be something I get all the time, I can just drag that over, place it on my toolbar. Otherwise, you know, let's just go through, finish out the sketch. Again, with Creo, we can just snap straight to that without having to create a reference anywhere on here. You know, it actually just creates that for me, but I can always manage those references if I want. You know, otherwise, finish the sketch out, put the dimension onto this, and continue on. Now, something a lot of people don't know also is with Creo, if you do an up to next on a surface that does not match what your sketch looks like, it will actually adhere to that surface. So doing something that would typically take, you know, again, multiple different features to be able to handle something like this, you know, just doing up to next, shift left click. Maybe we want to add on a offset onto this as well. So that's another new feature within Creo, just giving you a lot more control over how your extrudes are actually made, reduce the amount of things in your model tree, don't have to deal with that clutter. So put that offset in. Again, now we have a fairly complicated extrude feature all within just one extrude there. Last thing I want to look at with this, if we go down to my top plane and go to my edges here, if we can do a box select now. So I can box select over all kinds of different features, all kinds of different edges here, maybe just add on rounds to everything at once and go from there. So that was just an example of how we can just quickly build out a new part and just showing some of the power behind Creo 4.0. Now going on from this, I'm going to open up a new file here. We have these tracks on this robot that we're going to be taking a look at. Now this track needs a side guard on here, so I can quickly assemble that in. Now this doesn't have to necessarily be a Creo part, so anyone who's familiar with CAD knows that we can bring in all kinds of different file formats, third-party neutral file formats, in particular maybe a SolidWorks piece. And actually with SolidWorks, CATIA, and NX, we can natively open those, which is something that has changed throughout Creo in the previous years. Previously, you might have had to have a seat of SolidWorks on your computer to do this, but now I can just say, let's not import it, let's just open it. Let's not have to deal with some funky import errors. Let's constrain it in and place it in my piece. Now, if I want to modify this, that is a whole nother deal as well. So typically with these kind of imports or native opens, we just have this blob of geometry, this SolidWorks ID 40. That's all we get. We don't know what these cuts are. We don't know how this was made, what the rounds are, but it doesn't matter with Creo. So we can just say, well, let's convert this piece. This is a sheet metal piece I'm going to be working with. Let's convert this to be the driving edge. And I can start with and work with this piece. Now, what I was hinting at earlier and being able to work with this model, we're going to be using flexible modeling. Well, something that's new within Creo 4 is the ability to use flexible modeling with sheet metal parts without having any problems. Of course, it doesn't have to be a sheet metal part, but there's support for that as well now. So if I just want to, and if anyone's not seen flexible modeling, you just highlight on some edges. So grab these edges, grab this hole here, just say, I want to move this. So we say, where do we want to move it? Along this edge. We can move that entire thing along. It knows all the rules with sheet metal, and it knows what to replace and what to put where it's moved and how to move it all together. Some additional things we can do, box selecting down here on a lot of different of these cuts. I can just say, well, this is a pattern, obviously. It's going to pick up all those different things. It might not even matter if this was built as a pattern. It's going to recognize that there's that similar structure there. Now I can go even further in this and say, well, let's edit that. Say, I want 4 of those this time, and pull that in together. So now we can just modify an existing pattern within this sheet. Likewise down here, might want to pattern this out as well, add in some of these edits or the instances and go from there. So just building out, working with a piece that is normally really hard and difficult to work with. Likewise, if we have maybe a round here, we can just remove that off, and I can always pattern that round to everything else if I want. Or these holes here, these punch outs, I just remove that as well. Just get that out of here. So making some very rapid changes to this particular model. One more move, and this one even has a bend relief here. So something that would be difficult to work with flexible modeling in the past, doesn't matter now. It recognizes what that is and how to manage that as well. So last thing I want to look at is the ability to recognize sheet metal objects. And if you'll notice, we have all these different flex features out here now. So actual features we can work with in our model tree. We also have this design objects tree. So if I do a recognize bends and automatically recognize everything, it's going to pick up every bend within this particular sheet metal piece, and it's going to place those in my design object tree. So I can actually do something with this a little bit later. So automatically select, it says 8 bend reliefs are found. They're all rip bend reliefs. So I'm working with this import with no problem. So if I want to go through, say, well, here's a bend relief. I want to change how that works. I want to get into this, and I want to say, well, instead of a rip, I want this to be a round, or I want this to be rectangular. And I actually might want to go modify what this shape exactly looks like. I can do that, no problem now. It's going to change that for me, regardless on if this was an import or not. So likewise over here, might want maybe another rectangle on this side, go from there. Lastly, those bends, if I go through, modify that, maybe instead of a 90-degree bend, we want 120. You can just accept that off, and it's going to change this model. So a lot of different power with Creo on how we can not only bring in imports without having to worry about import failures, being able to natively open, we can also go through and modify those with flexible modeling. So giving us a lot of different things we can do with our toolbox there. Now going on from this, I'd really like to take a look at one of our new extensions, which is the GD&T Advisor. So GD&T is something that is, it's really coming in industry now. People are designing more in the 3D world and getting away from 2D drawings, because 2D drawings obviously have some downsides to them that MDD and the 3D annotations are trying to eliminate there. So if I go through and say, well, I want to start to annotate this, but I'm not entirely sure how to do it. Well, I can utilize this new GD&T Advisor extension to help me along with that step, or just to help me in general if I want to be able to tolerance everything very quickly. So what we can do is just say, I want to tolerance a feature, maybe this top, and then I just go through, and all I have to worry about is what specific tolerance I want to put on it. In terms of a geometric characteristic, it's already going to try to narrow down at specifically what I should do here. It's not going to give me all these different options that you'd have without this extension. It's going to say, well, you probably want flatness for this. It's going to even flag this one. Put down the tolerance value. It won't let me accept off until I've placed that tolerance value. This was orange before. Then we can just go on and it will place it automatically for me. It places it on the correct plane, in the correct position, and it's going to go by these ASME standards here, or if I want to do an ISO standard, I can also choose that and build it out for me. Now going through, just doing some more just to show how quickly we can go through and do this. You can pick up some of these surfaces. Maybe I want these different holes here. Again, it's going to say you probably want perpendicularity, but these other options are here too. Maybe I want a material reference modifier as well. I can choose which kind of datum references I want to use. If I want to add some new ones in, I can even give these names to show up as well, and they'll actually show up in our feature tree over here. And we can go on from there regardless. Maybe move that around to give it a little more space. So going on, just to reiterate, go down here. I want this big hole. Go through and say, I want this to be toleranced. I also want to add another geometric characteristic on, maybe a parallelism as well as that position. And I want to add in a separate tolerance onto that. So tolerancing multiple different things all at once, adding on different material conditions, every different datum plane we want to do, and it's always going to put it on the correct plane so that I can read it. You can even go through and tolerance this out a little bit as well. So we can do a plus or minus, mess with those values if I want. Otherwise, we just accept that off. Now, one last one I want to look at. We have these holes down here. So there's 8 of these guys. They're all the same. And it's actually going to, it's recognizing that there's 8 of them here and that they're the same hole, and we probably want them toleranced the same way. So just to go through, do one more here. Put my material modifier down, what kind of characteristic I want to choose, and go from there. And it's actually going to say, there's 8 of these holes. Now, one thing, and we actually did with 2 of these, I actually applied a 0 tolerance value, and it's telling me you can't do that. That's a problem. And it's going to bring that up. It's going to flag that in my advisor tree. If I actually go to my options, we can actually say, if I go to the actual error itself, I say, what's my more help? and it's going to tell me exactly what I did that's wrong. So it's even going to be there to help me improve on what I can do next time, what's wrong with this, why it's not allowed. So otherwise, we just go edit dimension. It's going to bring me straight to that menu that I need to be at, and we can very quickly just add in a plus or minus, change those values if needed. Otherwise, this extension is here to guide us along and step us through this process of GD&T. Now, last thing, I can do is show and hide constraints at any time, and it's going to tell me what's fully constrained, what's partially, what's under constrained. And I can go through and make sure that I have a fully constrained model before sending it off to manufacturing floor, before I get it off to somebody, only to find out that there was an error and I need to go back and they need to send it back to me to get, or they need to guess somewhere on what a dimension's supposed to be. So try to eliminate all those problems. Now, in addition to the extension, we've also made a lot of improvements on how MBD works. I don't think I have time to go fully into everything that we've changed here. This is a very broad subject. I'm sure we can set up another demonstration if anyone's curious about more about this, but we've changed a lot of the interfaces around from previous versions of Creo, tried to streamline the entire process, put everything up into the ribbon, try to make sure that things aren't hidden behind additional menus that they've been hidden behind before, and really just streamline this entire process, make MBD something that's a lot easier. We also have the additional support for if we do a save as a copy, maybe we want off as a step file. Something that's emerging industry is the ability to do a step AP242. We can actually do and support that as well. So the AP242 application protocol includes all the annotations that we put on this as well. So even if we're sending this off to someone who doesn't have Creo, they will have ways to see that with that newly supported step release. Now going through, I just wanted to look at one last section. A lot has changed with Creo 4. These are just a few of the major differences and a few of the exciting things that we're excited to show. But there have also been a lot of changes to some of the extensions that you might be using today. So definitely, if you have any questions on that, on if something's changed that you're particularly working on, that's something I'd be happy to answer. But otherwise, these are just a few of the things that we're particularly excited to show. So, and one of those things, the last thing I want to do, is the ability to add in lattices now with Creo 4. So we have added in a lot of different support for additive manufacturing. For anyone who's out there, it's doing a lot of 3D printing. This one's really for you. So being able to add in lattice without having to go to a Catalyst software or a slicer software, we can just say exactly where the lattice is going to be, pick the front and the back surfaces. So basically we're bounding the lattice into the middle of this finger here. It's giving me a preview of what my lattice looks like. We might want that to be a little bit smaller before we place it in. And it's going to automatically apply a lattice throughout the entire thing. It's going to figure out how it's supposed to be placed in. So something that would typically be very difficult to model on your own, able to be placed in with this new additive manufacturing extension. We have full control over being able to modify this as well. So we have some dangling beams here. We have some extra beams we might not want in there to cut down on print time. I can go through and say, well, let's remove maybe my inner horizontal beams, or I want to remove my dangling beams. Let's see what it looks like now. We can see it's changed up just a little bit. Looks a little bit cleaner now. If we want to change the type of lattice, so a lot of different support for 2.5D and 3D lattices. So pick what direction we want. This is going to be a regular 2D y-axis lattice. Maybe we want this to be quasi-radial instead. So just a little bit of a different look. Herringbone obviously is a little bit different as well. We can even go through and say, well, for each of these, maybe I want to add drain holes in. So something that's particularly interesting, if you're trying to 3D print this, you close this off and you make this entire thing shelled in, you have the lattice on the inside, you got to have a way for support material to get out if you are building with support material. So being able to design that within the software instead of trying to go to an extra piece of software to do that for you. But for the intents and purposes of this, we'll just do this regular 3D that we chose off. Make it go back to a regular, and we can just accept off from there. Now, the additive manufacturing extension can work really seamlessly with all the other extensions. It's just going to be another feature in our model tree. And one of the things in particular that you can do with this and go beyond what we've done here is if you ever do simulations with Creo and you want to simulate this and actually optimize this particular piece, you can run a full simulation just as you would another Creo piece. You're going to see how it holds up structurally. And if you do a simulation and you pick these lattice dimensions as your driving factors to optimize, It might even optimize each lattice independently from each other. You might get very large lattices on the end where the stress might be higher and smaller ones over here. Whatever the optimization is going to tell you is necessary to meet your design constraints, you can do that with the additive, or you can do that with the simulate extension in addition to this. Now going on from here, something that we can all do, if I ever just want to set up a tray for 3D printing, we can do that within Creo as well. So I want to say I have this lattice figure, I want to send this off to my 3D printer, but I want to set it up beforehand. I don't want to have to do that setup somewhere else. I can just place this on my tray. Actually, if we go into my, I can actually have printers linked up here. So if I want to add in a new printer, we have support for Stratasys and 3D Systems printers have additional support compared to what other printers have. But if we don't have one of those, we can just say, let's another printer. This is our tray size. I just want to see how it looks on the tray and send that out with my STL. Otherwise, if we have a supported printer, we actually have further capabilities. Stratasys and some 3D Systems printers, you can print directly from Creo. And you even can change the appearance. You can choose what color you want. You can calculate the build all within your software. So if you are designing a piece, plastic, I just want to see how long it takes to build. You find out it takes 48 hours. Okay, I need to go through and make a change. Oh, right here, it's building a lot of support material. Maybe I can work that down a little bit to cut this out. Otherwise, if I want to set this up a little bit, say maybe we want to pattern this out. I'm going to say we're patterning in a certain direction. So up to this wall, maybe I want 3 of these guys. I'm going to print 3 of these off at another time. If this is how I want my tray set up, now it's here where I could do the printer validation. So every printer is obviously different. For each printer that I set up here, I can actually choose what's the minimum wall thickness I'm working with, what's the tolerance. So just making sure that whenever I go through and actually print this out, it's going to work, and I'm not just going to get a failed print, some piece of junk that comes out of there that I realize I need to go through and make a change because the 3D printer actually wasn't able to meet the constraints that I wanted it to do. So it's going to tell me, yeah, I violated a rule here. Maybe I need to go through, fix up my thin walls, make sure that this thing 3D prints. In terms of global interference, we can actually check to make sure if I'm building a lot of these at once that we're not running into each other, and it's going to automatically obviously flag me and say, well, you messed up here. These weren't assembled correctly. Let's just go through, position them myself, or just use auto position to go through and do it for me. We can prepare for 3D printing. And I know we're running up until 12:30 here, but just bear with me for a few more minutes. You can clip the model, be able to see exactly how it's going to build. And we could display our support material as well to see exactly how it's going to build this all out. So a lot of support with Creo in terms of additive manufacturing. They're always adding new printers. So if you have an unsupported printer, hopefully it's on the roadmap and we can get that supported for you. Otherwise, if you don't have a supported printer, you can't print directly from Creo, but you can always go through, do the old save as STL. You can always go through, customize your export, choose your chord length, choose your angle control. Regardless, we have support for other printers as well, just not being able to link it directly up to print to it. So that was a fast look at some of the new things we've changed within Creo 4. Obviously, a lot more has changed, but regardless, that's some of the things we're excited about. And I'd just like to thank you guys all for joining the presentation today. And if you have time to stick around, I guess I can probably take a few questions as well here.
Excellent. Well, Andrew, thank you very much for that overview. I just want to review something. I'm going to show my screen again. Couple of things. There are some incentives that end at the end of September that I mentioned in the invitation that I sent out for Creo. So I'm going to review these now for those of you who are interested. There's 2 really big offers from 3HTI and PTC, and one of them is called the Customer Loyalty Program, which I will detail a little more. The other one is buy one, get one for half price. Now, PTC is moving to a 100% subscription model starting January 1st, which means that their perpetual licenses will no longer be available. Everything is going to be on a subscription basis. And if you do have a perpetual license and say you are on a Creo parametric platform, which I don't believe that Creo parametric has flexible modeling, you would need to upgrade to Creo Essentials in order to have the flexible modeling capability. After January 1st, you will not be able to upgrade your perpetual licenses because everything's going to be based on subscription. So if you want to stock up on perpetual licenses before before January 1st, or if you just want to stock up on a couple subscription licenses, you can do that, and whatever configuration you get, the second configuration will be at half price, which I think is a great offer. So the customer loyalty program, this needs a little more detail, which I have 2 more slides, and I'll be done this hopefully in about 64 seconds. This is for current customers on Creo and Pro Engineer, and this is a reward for your loyalty and your willingness to convert your perpetual license to a subscription. Now, when you do this, you will add a significant amount of functionality, up to actually over $12,000 annually of functionality is what this would cost. So basically what you would pay annually for $12,000 a year, you will pay for somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,200 annually, where the normal subscription price is $2,700. You get a discounted rate on subscription. Like I mentioned, it was I can't remember off the top of my head if it's $2,100 or $2,200. It's pretty close. And also you will receive a maintenance or your support credit. So what you have remaining in support or maintenance, how many months on your term, you will get a credit for that back when converting. So it's good. This offer goes to September 22nd. It actually goes to the last week in September, but it's a good idea to get the orders in as soon as possible so that everything can get processed in a timely manner. So what you receive when you convert your subscription or your perpetual license to a subscription, the standard subscription benefits are you get the standard e-learning library, full use of the library for every single Creo Pro Engineer release. You also receive a home use license at no extra charge, and your extended borrowing, instead of it being 30 days of extended borrowing, you can go up to 180 days. And also you have included the Advanced Performance Advisor. And then you can select 3 of 4 extensions within for Creo. You can get the Design Interactive Surface Design extension, Piping and Cabling. You can get Creo Simulate, which is formerly known as Mechanica, or the Additive Manufacturing extension. So you get 3 of these 4 extensions when you convert to a subscription, and also you get the Design Exploration extension and the Human Factors extension, which is Mannequin, which for some reason I spelt wrong. You get the Human Factors extension with Mannequin and Mannequin Analysis. So if you any subscriptions of Creo Essentials that are purchased today will include these 2 extensions. And when you convert, not only do you get those 2 extensions, but 3 of these 4. And once again, it's well in excess of over $12,000 worth of functionality on an annual basis. So with that, I'm going to field a couple of questions here. And the first question is, can you add threads to parts for rapid prototyping, such as a half NPT?
You mean threads for, like, if you're doing like a nut or a bolt? Is that what he's talking about?
I would guess if you have some type of part that's either has a thread as a bolt, or if it's a screw.
You can add in. I think the ability to add in threads is in one of our other extensions. Intelligent Fastener extension. I think you'd have to model them if you don't have that particular extension.
I know from my experience of working with 3D printers that if you have the threads into your model, when it is converted, and I'm talking about specifically the 3D printers that we represent for EnvisionTech and Markforged, that those threads will be a part of the 3D printing process. And also you can check level by layer by layer to the micron what the resolution is going to be on those threads. I can't speak for Stratasys printers or other printers, but I just know the capabilities of the Markforged and the EnvisionTech printers. So good question, Charles. He writes, we add 1/2 NPT internal for screwing drain lines.
I'm not familiar with that terminology, unfortunately.
I think what I'll do, Charles, is I'll get in touch with you offline if necessary, and we can figure out and detail your questions a little more. You're welcome, Charles. Thank you. So I want to thank everybody for attending today. If you need any more detail on Creo 4.0, on the upcoming training series that we're going to have to help you become more efficient and proficient at using Creo and the capabilities that are within the essentials packages, you can contact me directly, Robert Romanowski, rromanowski@3hti.com, or you can just call us toll free at 866-624-3HTI or email us at info@3HTI. So I want to thank everybody for being on today. Thank you for your questions. And Andrew, great job today. Appreciate all your help that PTC gives us to help our customers become more effective at what they do. So that's going to conclude our webinar. I want to thank everybody again and have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone. See ya.